we go. Awesome. Welcome to Trust Your Glitter podcast. This is Christy Belich, and I am here just to let you know we made it through. We made it through the penumbral lunar eclipse in Scorpio. And if you're feeling the feels, that's what it's all about. And today I'm going to pull some cards. I'm going to have a very kind of light episode just to talk about, we've got a week of work here ahead of us, but the astrology this week can bring us some wild cards. So I want to kind of open up this podcast with just 3 cards. I know a lot of people's reports back to me have just been about a lot of emotional intensity. And so I'm just going to show with these cute little unicorn cards. Okay, got 3 cards out. And I have the 8 of Wands, which is news on the way. Very nice. And I think that's very indicative of the week ahead because we close out the week between May 7th and May 14th with a nice Mercury moving direct in the sign of Taurus, which will be at 5 degrees of Taurus. So we are going to be experiencing a week where Mercury is going to be kind of moving the conversation ahead. There's also going to be a conjunction between the Sun and Uranus in Taurus at 18 degrees, and that is going to be on the 9th of May. So there is a week, this is definitely a week of wild cards, and the rest of May heading into June is going to bring us a lot of interesting energy. The intensity is going to be there through 2023, but what I like about this week coming out of the lunar eclipse is the fact that once clarity happens, and for me, I am part of the Pluto Scorpio generation with our South Node there, so millennials are getting these eclipses. If you're a mid-millennial, most likely these eclipses are right on your nodes, and they're pulling out a lot of things. And if we think about what the job between Scorpio and Taurus is Scorpio's job is to pull out the impurities, to basically take things, bubble them up to the surface, and allow things to heal, to pop the boil, to clean the energy. So with this, but that means that we have to go through the darkness of, a lot of times, the dark night of the soul. And what I'm getting personally, and through so many people who have reported to me, is this is a generational thing. There's a lot of internal fights between groups of people or families, or things where it's old way versus new. And if you're experiencing that, just know you're not alone. And the Strength card is out to just let you know that this is a time for you to really, really lean into the fact that, yes, there can be a lot of difficulties on the table, but the reality is it's time to kind of say, you know what, this is how this has been going for several decades. It's time to say goodbye to it. We're facing nodal cycles from 2003, 2004, a little bit 2005. And this is saying, yes, this is 9 of Wands. You're meant to kind of feel the feels. And with the wands there, it really does bring out, this is Leo's major arcana, the Strength card. The 9 of Wands is fire energy, and the 8 of Wands is fire energy. And I think it's interesting that once that news is received, this can be, with those 8 and 9s together, 9 is an ending. 8 is kind of, literally with the Strength card, the infinity sign is also an 8. So 8s and 9s. 8 being the number of abundance. I'm sorry, my water bottle is very loud. The pollen on the East Coast is different from the pollen in Texas. So my voice might crack a little bit, but it's really it's really been an experience of being around trees and grass and flowers, which has been very nice for me. So that's been my experience of the eclipse, is just being able to experience a different form of nature. I want to kind of talk about the dates as well. So today, as I record this, it's Sunday the 7th, and I spoke about this on the last episode, but Venus enters Cancer, which is all about family values, self-nurturing, mother energy. And as we've had Mars in Cancer, now as Venus enters Cancer, that is, lunar ruled sign. So Mars energy being the masculine form of the flame and Venus being the feminine form of the flame are actually entering the same, or within the same sign. Now, Mars is going to be heading on over to Leo, and I'll talk about that in another episode. But I also want to discuss the fact that both the twin flame energies, the divine masculine, the divine feminine from within us all, are experiencing lunar cycling. So in this particular case, the moon transits a sign about every 2 days, and it's very important to take note of your emotions, how you connect to friends, family, community, your emotional needs, your self-nurturing, because a lot of that is imperative right now. This week is not without its shifts and wild cards, and I just feel really compelled because this is something that I think is generational, and because Pluto is shifting between Aquarius and Capricorn over the next months ahead, Pluto may kick and scream through Capricorn. However, that information, those downloads, and I've said this before, but the downloads received with Pluto and Aquarius being community building, a greater awareness towards spiritual transformation. We are in a spiritual age, and whether you agree or disagree, you can't not notice what's going on in the world. The old hat ways of the patriarchy, which is a lot of restriction, especially in the sign of Capricorn, a lot of abuse, a lot of old abusive systems. So this can be anything from political systems to religious systems to old ways of financial development are going to be rocked and rolled. And interesting enough, this week on the 9th of May, when Uranus and the Sun conjunct, meaning the two planets meet one another at the same point at 18 degrees of Taurus, I do think that there's a cycle. We've seen a lot of banks kind of go through some shifts and changes. First Republic Bank is an example of this energy being, I believe, bought by JP Morgan. These are kind of the examples of what we're going to see in the economic system. And community-based economy might be something that over the next decade takes place. Obviously, Uranus being technology, the internet, innovation is more digital coin, digital-based currency. Obviously, there's more sides to that look at it as more of a universal currency that will come into play as well. But when it comes to Taurus, there's also more, and I see the bottom card. Oh, I have a King of Pentacles out. That's more currency related to community. So it might even be that there is a currency and the other currency is related to agriculture, which is something that, if I'm going to predict anything, it's really important to look at the horse world right now. Look what's going on in horse racing, some patterns that are going on horse racing tracks. I'm not going to get into that in a crazy way, but yesterday was the Kentucky Derby. And on my end, I was in my feels with the eclipse, and I was saying, oh man, all of these really highly sponsored horses with all these great stats are probably gonna take take this race. And the reason why I love horse racing is because it's a sport that's super unpredictable. I always root for the underdog. And I think that a lot of the transits are pointing to this, not battle, for lack of better terms, but the recognition that the old ways of the old male system, the old men system, do not translate into a world where gig economy and entrepreneurship and, people who are supporting their community from a very ground up place, hence I would say more the economic underdogs, are really the backbone of what these transits are all about. And I think that this week is a deep recognition of certain things related to that. Picking up and doing your own thing despite having to confront some really tough circumstances with these eclipse cycles, because we're bookended in 2023 with the eclipse cycles we're experiencing right now. We don't get to not do this homework. We don't get to, and I love that there's a shadow and light on me because I'm recording kind of where I don't have the best lighting, but it is kind of this recognition of working through our shadow and moving into the light, but you can't have one without the other. And kind of really facing our shadows and facing the fact that we are not in control. Something else is in control. And I think it's interesting that the Kentucky Derby was such a beautiful symbol, because the horse that won was an underdog named Mage. And the name Mage translates to the magician. When all else fails, still believe in magic, still believe in the beauty of magic, in the beauty of your own magic, in the beauty of your own light. And in the tarot deck, the magician is number 1, meaning this is the first tangible energy. The Fool jumps into the unknown and gets to all of the elements, including ether. So I think it's interesting that a horse literally named after the magician, it was almost like we watched a sacred race, in a sport that's getting a lot of flack right now. And I see horses as very Uranian, because working with horses, you never really know. Some of them are coming from a place of trauma. You never really know what's going to trigger them. You never really know what's, they could see a plastic bag, blowing in the wind and think it's a monster coming to them, and they run off and they're this big animal, and you're like, that's a plastic bag. But that's the beauty of horses. Like, that's the beauty of this energy. It's, there's a reason I have unicorns as my cards, and thank you to my friend Kristen for sending me these, because I believe that we are all magic. We are all spiritual beings. And I've noticed this as well, is, you don't need to the community of spirituality is, some people might have more experience, but we're all spiritual. And some people are coming at it from a different background. Some people's experience of the sacred masculine, sacred feminine might be a different vernacular, might be a different vocabulary, but all in all, we kind of feel these things in different ways. And in my particular case, this is how I speak. This is my language: astrology and tarot cards and horses and animals and connections to people. But in reality, we all have this language. It's just how it comes out in our own ways. So I want to talk about, let's see. So we have our last quarter moon on the 12th. That is at 21 degrees Aquarius. And quarter moon energy is something I'm still learning. I think Sarah Jenks, Jenks, she has a blog I really like about working with the different phases of the moon and what they mean for you. So I might actually link that as well in the show notes, because she has a blog about working with last quarter moons. But we've had something take place and it's solidifying in our psyche. So I do kind of see it as, 21 degrees Aquarius. it does what comes to mind to me is the Saturn-Uranus squares of 2021. I mean, we've seen this energy before, and it's going to be in square to the Uranus-Sun conjunction. So we've kind of seen these shifts before, and it makes me call back to December of 2021, just based upon my memory. I don't know if any other astrologers are going to be talking about those Saturn-Uranus squares, but that definitely is something that comes to mind when I see this last quarter moon on the 12th, is kind of look back to what was going in your life, December of 2021 into January of 2022. And then on the 14th, Mercury goes direct, and that is in the evening. So that's at 11:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's at 5 degrees of Taurus. So we're still revisiting the conversations, and a lot of them can be internal conversations based upon what went down with both the solar and lunar eclipses between April and May. So I really think this is a very important week for self-reflection and really kind of looking at things from a directional standpoint. Because Uranus is involved, obviously you might make a plan and then the universe is like, that's funny, this is actually the plan. So just showing up and being open to the fact that this might be the plan, but in reality, a whole bigger and brighter future is ahead of you. I think that is what these eclipses are actually calling for, is that society kind of shifts in a brighter direction. I really do have hope, even with everything that's going on, that can be very mentally draining to a lot of us, especially if you're an empath and you're feeling everything that's going on. The 11th, we also have Venus, who's in Cancer at 3 degrees, sextile to the North Node at 3 degrees of Taurus. So even with these shifts and changes, there is a call for creativity. There is a call, and I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. This is so frustrating. That is my whole thing. And Taurus does rule the throat chakra. And part of my life's path is my North Node is in Taurus, and learning how to speak up for myself and learning to kind of push through any sort of stuff through speaking. So if you are part of the millennial generation, millennials get a lot of flack, but know that millennials have their South Node, in Scorpio. We are supposed to talk. We are here to talk, and we're here to talk about healing. So if you have your North Node in Taurus and you're struggling through something regarding standing up for healing, you're in the right spot, because I'm right there with you. The 11th, we also have a Venus semi-square to Uranus. So creativity does have tension, but just trust. And I might want to pull a card for this. Trust that creativity gets you through. Creativity is our birthright. Judgment card. It is Scorpio's major arcana card. We still have the South Node in Scorpio. I kind of want to see if the next card after it, the Sun, shedding light. So you might feel judged on what you do. Oh, your friends are there, 3 of Cups. You've got support around you. I like these cards. I like this. Very, very positive. This is a tough card because it's, Scorpio is the Trinity, and you rise through the ashes, you shed your snakeskin, and you rise like the phoenix. And those who have Scorpio in their chart, wherever you have Scorpio in your chart, is where you're constantly in this evolutionary cycle. Sometimes you're brought to the base layer and you have to raise yourself up through it. But the reality is, this is part of the process. The 12th is a really big day, so I'm going to talk about that as well. It's a big day for conversations. So Mercury is sextile to Venus. Again, creativity gets you through. It is all about your personal creativity, that second chakra creativity, base meditation. If you do seated meditation, sit on a pillow if you can, or just pulling up from the earth and just meditate. The color orange, red, are great colors to kind of meditate with, because it is working through some very deep stuff. And if you're going through a lot of trauma healing, this is a time where writing, speaking, doing what you need to do, that healing work on the 12th will be super, super, it will be a rock for you. With Venus in Cancer, cry it out. I mean, it is super emotional, self-soothing. It's just kind of those processes. If you work with therapists, if you work with anybody, I definitely recommend the 12th being a day that you just say, this is a day for you. This is a day for you to kind of really, really recognize that what you're saying to yourself, what you're saying out loud, you are creating your reality. And I'm saying this to myself too. Believe me, I am here in the process. We are in the trenches. Anybody listening know that I'm saying this from a deep, deep perspective. And I'm not a therapist, but I'm just letting you know what I see based on the transits. Mercury. Let me just make sure. Let me check. Mercury is also sextile Saturn in Pisces. So Saturn's at 6 degrees of Pisces. I love that Saturn is basically trine to the South Node because there is an element of, hey, Pluto is on the way back towards Capricorn. We get it. The old ways have to change. But Saturn in Pisces really does give that like element of music heals, mantra heals, meditation, sitting by the water. Your self-soothing stuff. And because we have Venus now saying, hey, Saturn, just to let you know, this is what I do. This is me. Saturn is like, okay, I get it. I really like Saturn in Pisces, and Saturn's been in Pisces since March. Okay, let me just check. And on the 13th, we have Venus. Venus has a beautiful week. Venus is trine. What did I say? Mercury is sextile Taurus. Did I say, oh no, do I have to erase this or edit this out? Okay, everybody, I don't have my glasses on. And I have my glyphs on here on my little page. So then I have to squint my eyes. So hold on. Mercury is sextile to Venus on the 12th. Mercury is sextile to Saturn on the 12th. So Mercury is at 6 degrees Taurus. Venus is at 6 degrees Cancer. Saturn is at 6 degrees of Pisces. And then on the 13th, Venus is trine Saturn. So if I said that Venus was sextile Saturn, it's because of my eyesight and I don't have my glasses on. That's really what's going on. And the reason why I don't have my glasses on is because my lighting here shines on my little glasses here, and then I just blind everybody that's watching this video. So I have things written big in front of me, but obviously it still doesn't work. So if you're watching, let me correct myself. And also Mercury is in retrograde, so it is on my North Node. So being on my North Node, I'm not cutting this part out. You can just laugh at me. I'm a comedian anyway. Just laugh at Christy for not being able to see. I just can't see the page. I can't see it. I have my eyesight. Watch. I have to hold this here. Look, the magical notebook, if you're watching the video, appears out of the green screen so that I can read it. Mercury, sextile to Saturn. And if anybody listening who's like an astrologer and you're like, girl, how is Mercury trine? Understand. My eyes, y'all. My eyes. Okay. So on the 13th, Venus is trine Saturn. I love this. The 12th and 13th are big days for creativity. Loose translation, creativity, end of the week, self-soothing, end of the week. If you need to paint a painting, if you need to paint that mural, paint that mural. Especially with Mercury going direct the next day. I think I just said Mercury. Mercury be going direct the next day, y'all. So let me just wrap this up. It's going to be a pretty quick and dirty podcast, despite the what was it? I don't know if that's a technical issue. I would say it's more optical. Optritional issue? Okay. I'm just going to do some cards to close out. Very nice. One more. I'm doing 3. I have the 3 of Cups, the Chariot, and the 6 of Swords, and then on the bottom, the 4 of Swords. So the 3 of Cups, again, friendships are key. Close connections, supportive connections, creative groups, cups being water. And who's in water signs this week? Venus, Mars, and Saturn still in Pisces, and the South Node is still in Scorpio. So we've got a lot of water energy in the sky, water everywhere, and lots to drink, actually. Through our intuition and our creativity. Another water card, the Chariot, which is Cancer's, one of Cancer's major arcana cards. We are in the year of the Chariot, and this is a year just like the horse Mage winning the Kentucky Derby, where synchronicity and belief that even though the old ways be looking like they're winning, even though they be looking like they winning, the old ways got to go. And believe in magic. Believe in your magic. Believe in your inner magic, especially because we are in this year of the Chariot. And in reality, what was directing the show was this sacred, the Chariot is the lunar energy. So it's interesting that this is a masculine card, but the reality is these eclipses directing the show. This card was in reverse, 6 of Swords. Sometimes you got to go back to go forward. And I think that that's the beauty of any retrograde, not just a Mercury retrograde, but sometimes you got to go back to the shore that you came from in order to go forward to the new point in the distance. And the bottom card on the deck, I don't know if it's reverse or up, but is the 4 of Swords. Generally, I read that as self-care. Cut and dirty. Cut and dirty. I think that's a pretty clear reading. Take care of yourself. And do I have anybody else that wants to come out on the table? This one. And this, no, 3. 8 of Wands. I think these are more intuitive hits, intuitive messages coming through. Queen of Cups. I think that's Venus right there in Cancer. So she's going to move with the lunar energies. And again, the 9 of Wands. We got wands, fire and water create steam. If you feel like you're getting this intuitive hit, but you're being told you're wrong, go back, clarify that for yourself. Really sit with your notebook, sit with your words, sit with your thoughts and say, okay, where was I wrong? But also, if I'm getting this intuitive hit, despite what I'm being told by the media, by humans, by whatever, sit with yourself and say, in reality, maybe there's pieces of XYZ here, but what part of your intuition is screaming at you right now? What part of your intuition is saying, you know what? Actually, it's this. Write that down and really sit with that. And I'll be doing that too. So I want to say thank you so much for listening. This has been Trust Your Glitter. I'm Christy, and who knows how this video is going to turn out. You can laugh at me. I might put this out on all the public media. Generally put this behind my Substack, but I think I'm going to try this week to get a little bit weird and put this out just to see. So I'm going to get a little strange with this and see how the full video goes out on YouTube. So enjoy and have a good one. Thank you for watching here on my video. You probably see that I'm squinting a lot and can't see on this video and make a lot of mistakes, but you know what? I'm learning. So hopefully I have the guts to put this on my YouTube in the full form. So we'll see what happens.